When you look at a map of Michigan, the first thing you notice is that the state is torn in half. One side is flat and serene, the other wild and rocky. Separating the two halves are two of America's largest bodies of water, Lake Michigan and Lake Huron. That's why Michigan has a unique characteristic. Half of its landmass is completely cut off from the other half. The Lower Peninsula, in the south, is filled with flatlands, vast fields, and rolling plains ideal for agriculture. The climate here is milder, with warm summers and mild winters. This is why the state's major cities, industry, agriculture, and economy have all thrived in this region. But when you look north to the Upper Peninsula, or UP as it's commonly known, you enter a completely different world. Rugged cliffs, ancient mountain ranges, and stormy lake shores. This is an extension of the Canadian Shield, built on rocks hundreds of millions of years old. Mount Arvon, the state's highest point, and the surrounding Porcupine and Huron Mountains give Michigan a wild, mountainous character. On one side, coastline sculpted by gentle beaches and massive dunes. On the other, towering cliffs like pictured rocks, caves pummeled by lake waves, and sheer cliffs. These two halves of the same state are like two different worlds. Even the climate bears this out. In the south, the mild weather thrives on agriculture, while in the north, winters are so long and harsh that the snow lingers for months. The cold air carried from the north by Lake Superior transforms the Upper Peninsula into one of the most blizzard-prone regions in America. This makes northern Michigan feel disconnected from the south, both geographically and culturally. Physically, it is also connected to Wisconsin. It is annexed to Michigan only on the map and by a strange quirk of history. So how did this strange combination come about? The answer lies in America's strangest war, the Toledo War. In the early 1330s, Michigan aspired to statehood, but a deadly dispute erupted with Ohio over its borders. The problem was a tiny piece of land called the Toledo Strip. Here lay the port, the future of trade. Michigan, looking at a flawed map, thought it had acquired it. Ohio, however, thanks to its political clout in Washington, refused to relinquish it. The two sides armed themselves and militias clashed on the border. But not a drop of blood was shed in this battle. History has dubbed it the war without bloodshed. Finally, Washington offered, Ohio will take Toledo, Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. The Upper Peninsula, as we know it today, seemed almost a joke to Michiganders at the time. For them, it was a useless, icy wasteland. Are we going to give up a port like Toledo and take this rocky wilderness? They lamented. But the dream of statehood prevailed. In 1837, Michigan joined the Union as the 26th state. There was great disappointment at the time. Toledo was gone, leaving a cold mountainous wasteland. But the irony became clear a few years later. The land beneath the UP was actually rich in copper and iron. The copper deposits discovered on the Keweenaw Peninsula quickly attracted miners from around the world. The iron ore around Marquette became one of the greatest resources that fueled America's Industrial Revolution. This once cursed region became Michigan's true treasure. And compared to Toledo's future, the UP proved far more valuable. Wisconsin never claimed this land because Wisconsin didn't even exist at the time. Thus, Michigan held on to this northern peninsula, which it had inadvertently acquired, forever. Looking at the Upper Peninsula today, you can still see traces of that old mining boom. But mining is no longer the heart of the economy. It has become one of America's hidden wildernesses. Thousands of lakes, deep forests, and dense second-growth woodlands cover it. Huge boulders erode along the shores of pictured rocks, while the Porcupine Mountains teem with skiers in winter. Fishermen in summer, snowmobilers in winter. Today, the UP's greatest asset is its nature. The population is sparse. Only about 300,000 people live on the entire peninsula. That's a few 100,000 people scattered among small towns and villages in a land area larger than the entirety of Massachusetts. Marquette and Escanaba are the largest centers, but they're still small town sized. Residents here call themselves Yoopers. Those living further south are teased by the nickname trolls because they live under the Mackinac Bridge. This cultural banter reflects the stark difference between the two halves of the state, because on one side are big cities, agriculture, and economic power. On the other, quiet villages, hunting, fishing, and tourism. But despite everything, these two halves, connected by the Mackinac Bridge, are part of a single Michigan. One is incomplete without the other. Yes, Michigan's population and economic power may be in the south, but the state spirit lives on in the U.S.'s forgotten wild north, the U.S. North. Because it's precisely in this contrast that Michigan's true story lies. Modernized, dense cities on one side, on the other, a harsh and unforgettable borderland still shaped by nature. And perhaps it's precisely the existence of these two halves that makes Michigan what it is.